All right, everyone. So, how many of you are Stanford students? Raise your hand. Okay, pretty good. You know a lot. How many of you in your years at Stanford lived in Donner? Yeah. Well, Sam is actually a Donner resident, and yeah, so why don't we start there? Do you remember moving in?
I do. I actually haven't been out there for so long. I think my brother can walk by it after this because I have like such reason that it was a very strange experience. But it was like almost.
Do you have any favorite memories? Any building climbing, puddle diving?
Yeah, I was mentioning this backstage. I like it's sort of go to a place and like these memories come back. And very near here, like early in freshman year, a bunch of us in Steve people still do, but it was like a cool ride past us at the time. One of the people that we went with was like not told you to put the cover back on. So they kind of let the cover off. We went down and looked around, whatever, and came back, and it was this car, Buster's car, that like called into the open. Yeah. Without just like refused to school. But my memories are like Stanford and awesome. And I just have that very sleep. And it's kind of even the parts that I didn't think I was gonna like at the time, like stay home and basically debates.
I think that's a good course to get. You didn't try to think I've also pulled on that everything.
It's a good memory.
Wait, yeah. Every time I walk the gates, I just think back to that moment. These people turned out to be down there. Did you have a specific fun thing you were part of here at Stanford?
I did a few, but honestly, the best thing I did was just like hacking on comments with friends. If I could go back and do it, I would have done like less clubs and more just building something.
Right. Well, you lived through the archives of Sam's time here at Stanford. And I don't know if you guys know the club Bases. It's two non-entrepreneurs here in Stanford. And they found this document, the Business Symposium rule. So this is from spring 2005. This is like right before we dropped out. And in this document, there's this one entry that says Viendo. And Viendo is a service for cell phones that provides personalized information about hot venues, a map of locations of friends nearby, and compatible new friends and dates in the area. And keep in mind, this is 2005, so this is like before the iPhone came out. So this is kind of like a crazy idea at the time. And it's co-founded by 4 students that you can see here. Peter, Alex, Nick, and this guy named Sam up there. Is this blue? Yeah.
I forgot about this, but the important thing here is not about building stuff, but it's about how much Y Combinator did to change what it took to get funded. I was like, I came here, I was not that interested in startups, and then it kind of it was in the water, and I got excited about startups. But it was a super different time then, and you would talk to people and they'd be like, oh, you need a business person. You can't just, get these connections to VCs. It was you gotta get serious, you need a bunch of MBAs, you have to write a business plan. And, it's you need to raise this big round, and you get these VCs that can tell you what to do, whatever. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm in there, and these people are saying that's what you have to do, so we'll leave it. This was right around this time is when Y Combinator launched. And I'm sure you'll already think this, just hearing from Gary, but if you want to start a startup, you should definitely do Y Combinator. And it's an amazing thing. But before YC, in the dark ages, this is what you had to do. You had to go do business planning competitions, which are, business plans are a waste of time, business planning competitions are even worse waste of time. But this is kind of what this was how you could get things out of the world. And in the 20 years since, things have changed like unbelievably better.
How long were you working on this idea before, like, you discovered, like,
It's like, that was the other thing, like, it didn't, this, like many other things, did not start into being anything. It's just like I was sort of late, like, but over like a while, and then it got serious when, because I remember P1s. We did, yeah. Yeah.
so then how did you end up getting in contact with YC? You were in the first batch.
It's just like, I don't know, I think it was, maybe it was like you filled out this weird form that PG had that you had to like paste it to an email and not change any formatting because he had some weird parser for it. It was like that.
So all three of us are sophomores right now. Could you walk us through the end of your life back then?
Man, really boring. Like I went to class or didn't even it's not like, yeah, again, very fond memories, but like, very nice.
So when you were considering dropping out, did you feel like it was risky? I mean, were you excited? Like, it sounded like school maybe wasn't the whole environment that you were looking for. What was kind of like your process behind that?
But I feel a little bad saying this because obviously it worked out for me and I don't, survivorship bias is a real thing. I did think at the time, and I don't think now, that dropping out was like a particularly risky thing to do. Almost Stanford still does this, but at the time it was like you could stop back for 8 years and come back, no questions asked. Which I think is a great policy, and certainly made it easier to get my parents slightly on board with the idea. I think you should just work on whatever the sort of most interesting, highest rate of learning, highest impact thing you can is, and if that's being in school and learning a ton of stuff and being around interesting people and working on interesting stuff, great. If it's doing a startup, great. If it's dropping out to do AI research, whatever, also great. I think one of the trends of the last few decades, couple decades at least, has been that the default path has gotten relatively less good, and the option space of what you can do and still be really successful and happy and have a great impact on the world is increased and as the society gets richer and freer and more capability with a better technology tree. And I think that will just keep going. So it didn't feel like a crazy or risky thing to me at the time. I think if I were a student today, it would feel like even more of a, that's totally something I could consider. My parents didn't like it.
Amazing. Wow. So you raised over like $30 million for this idea, which we like kind of doesn't like see that today.
I was going to say it's like a pre-research. 1 minute.
Yeah. How did you do it? I mean, what are some special things? Wait, no. Okay.
Well, one thing that is cool about Stanford, in particular, is it had like a good movement. It was like very well connected to the whole like VC machinery, and Y Combinator also was local there. It was maybe there were less VC firms and less money at the time, but they were extremely focused on Stanford as like a source of ideas and people.
Be like from that YT management and founding, did it go really well at first, or like what was that like?
Actually, it felt like still being in college. Everybody was like pretty young at the time. We kind of like would stay up late talking or working on computers, and it felt like, it felt shockingly not that different. And I've heard a lot of people say this that have done YC and they've dropped out to do startups. Like, if you're a college student, like if you're like a CS-ish college student, and then you do a startup, for like the last year that you did school and the first year of doing a startup, eventually it gets very different. You're like,
So we have a lot of students here from Stanford, but we also have a lot of these campus students. And I agree with you. I do think Stanford has a pipeline into it. It's easy culture, it's money, right? I mean, what would you recommend to students coming to the university if they were interested in going to the campus?
That was the case at the time. I think that's in the case. This was like Stanford such access. Maybe there's just but I think it's like mostly over, maybe totally over, maybe even slightly negative selection for Stanford students at this point. I think YC did a lot for this. Yeah. Also, like VC just straight from industry. There's so many in the world that wants to consult us on. But I think it's no longer the case at all. That it's like a very Stanford.
So fast forward a few years, and you're now the president of YC, and then all of a sudden, boom, OpenAI is born. What happened? How did you guys come up with it?
So I was studying AI when I was here, and it was not working at the time at all. Like I thought AI would be the coolest, most important thing, but it was OpenAI lab was between my freshman and sophomore year, and I was like, okay, these are very systems. And I got distracted and just started something else, and I kind of started flop. But I always thought that AI was at least one of the 2 or 3 most important things that could happen. And you know, I was like paying attention to it. This is like a thing I recommend, and something I heard many people describe over the course of your career, which is if you get conviction in things that you care about early, the super set of them. Some you'll lose interest in, some will develop more. But the landscape of the world just is going to keep changing as you get more experience. And continuing to focus and like stick your head up and look and not get into tunnel vision thing seems like it's really important and really relates with success. And you know, so I was like paying attention to all the areas I was interested in. In 2012, the Alex paper happened, and I, like everybody else, was like, well, that's kind of cool, or very cool, but it didn't update me as much as it should have. Like, you know, sure, will be a factor. I then watched over the next couple of years as deep learning models kept getting better with scale. And I still didn't update enough, but now I was at least like, this is like an asteroid coming and a crazy thing that people are not paying more attention to. And so in 2014, we started saying, you know, we should really do something about this. It was incredibly unpopular at the time. Like we said, we want to make an AGI lab, and all like elders of the field, like they're insane and scammers. It's like, you know, AGI is 100 years away. None of these approaches are going to work. And we really said that. Let's just push on this idea that scaling DNA seems to matter. We didn't know at the time how really predictable the scaling was were, but it was at least clear back in those days that if you threw more computers, got better results. And we kind of just decided we were going to push on it as far as we could and see what happened. We were also very worried about what it would mean for, like, how we're going to solve the alignment problem, what it would mean for society. We didn't know that we were going to make it. Just like the research teams, weird scared. But it was really this mindset of if AI works, it will be unbelievably important, and we finally have an attack vector that maybe can go very far. It felt and still feels kind of crazy to me that it can go as far as it's turned out to go. Deep learning, the fact that these models can sort of do unsupervised learning in particular still seems sort of magical to me. The fact that next word prediction can be used basically to discover new scientific ideas, it makes like intellectual sense, but to see it work is still like a very crazy thing. But that was it, because we had this one idea, let's push on it.
You see all these ideas now, but as you mentioned, it was incredibly unpopular at the time. I'm really curious to know what the first pitch for OpenAI was like.
I love unpopular ideas. I always liked ideas that are big if they work, difficult to get to work, and unpopular. My career as an investor was basically getting on those. For whatever like reason that people think one thing is fun and not another, this is always particularly fun to me. So even if it weren't that I love AI so much, I would have thought the fact that this seems really undervalued and was cool. And that was the pitch. The pitch was something important is happening with deep learning and scale. We don't know what we're going to do with it. We don't know where it's going to go. We got a bunch of ideas that turned out to be hops along the way, but we're going to push on this, and something good is going to come out of it. And other people are undervalued on this. So it was like, that was really the pitch. It was not a good pitch.
Well, it worked. How did you meet your co-founders?
I've known Greg forever. I was the early investor in Stripe. He was the first employee, and I was like, what the hell, post him. And we had stayed in touch for sort of a decade or whatever in between. Ilya is this sort of genius godfather of the field, and I stopped him at a conference. And then later we started talking about doing a startup. Wojciech I met through kind of the like weird AGI nerds network of the area, and John, one of the others connected me to, and Elon. I guess, yeah.
So how did you feel on this side of OpenAI compared to your experience?
I mean, this was really a weird one. Like, the degree to which OpenAI was not meant to be a company is like very hard to overstate. We had no idea that we were going to ever move out. We thought we were just going to do research papers. As we got going, it became clear that there was going to be a lot more economic value along the way than we thought. We kind of had this conception that you were going to build this super intelligence and you're going to have this like crazy thing happen all at once. And we learned that was not quite the right picture. We also realized that instead of needing a few $1 billion, we thought we might need like hundreds of millions of dollars. And so it evolved. But at the start, it was like, we're going to be a research company. Actually, I remember some vivid memories of OpenAI. Very first day, been all this drama to get it started. The very first day, we're together in Greg Rockin's apartment, which was where we worked until we got our first office a few weeks or maybe a month later. And it's like, 9:30, 10 in the morning, everybody rolled in. We're sitting on Greg's couch, maybe there's 10 or 12 of us, and then maybe 8 or 10. And we look around and say like, okay, what are we gonna do? And someone said, we should write some papers. And someone said, okay, make a whiteboard, start talking. And like someone orders like a whiteboard on, Amazon or something. And I had this real moment of like, what, this is not good. What is it? This is just or anything that's gonna be effective. But I'm a big believer that in moments like that, you just like breathe, trust that if you have good people around, it's like that'll work out, and we just kind of went with it. Sometime in that first week, most of the ideas that turned out to be the core ideas for the first 4 years of OpenAI were written down in that whiteboard. Even at the time, we didn't realize that, and we're kind of just saying, this is probably not influence in other directions. And, we said we need to get some GPU, we need to do this, we need to do that. We need to pick some projects to see if this is really working. And stuff just kind of kept going.
You're in this place where you're like, okay, what do we do? Start doing some research papers. Like, when was the moment after that where things started to click for the first time? You're like, things started to feel like you guys really discovered something like big about it.
There were a few moments, I think it was not just one, but the felt sense was it was like miracle after miracle. And so at some point, more than any one thing that worked, it was like, man, someone opened the line up which here feels like we've discovered like a new law of physics or something. And, it was like great to get Dakota working or the robot working, and then eventually the first language model. But the biggest takeaway was just like, there is something about this streamlined approach that really feels like we're on the trajectory. To the degree that I had like a single moment, it was the GPT series. Like by GPT-2, it was clear to me like, man, this is something important is about to happen.
Yeah.
I do. I don't remember the launch day, but I remember the day that like I got to first, and I was just like, wow, this is great. And actually, I think it was technically a model that was like a little bit beyond what we released as GPT-2. But like, I knew GPT-3 would be amazing and GPT-4 would be amazing, and they were, and they're amazing in new ways. But that first night that I got to play with the model, and it was like doing something I never had seen a computer do before. I was like, okay. And we had to build up like confidence of deep learning working.
You initially withheld that model GPT-2. At what point did you feel like you were ready, or like what just maybe that what was ready?
But really that looked like silly in retrospect. I think the principle of precaution with each new level of AI capability is reasonable. Alignment has been easier to make progress in many of us in the field. But the societal impacts have been, or are getting big. And, you know, if we bias like slightly too much towards the cautionary side, I think that's good. Too much would be bad. I'm also worried about like a mega AI capability already building up. Like the way I would explain this is, if companies don't adopt AI capacity, then they will lose to fully autonomous, completely AI in some companies, and that will be a crazy destabilizing thing for society. So you can do that either. But you know, like we'll on this thing.
So what do you think the next ChatGPT moment will be?
Well, I think the next ChatGPT moment already was coding agents. And I think the next one that's not come yet will be that same level of ability to get stuff done from the knowledge work. Trying to make that happen.
So, I mean, we're all sophomores here. There's a lot that's going to change in the next few years when we graduate. I think, do you think AGI will be?
Yeah, I think now you will graduate to a world with AGI in it. And it will be much, you know, in some ways, like be the same. Don't move to get a job and think about it and like whatever else. Like the human, you never win against like, the human drives and what we care about staying the same. But in some other sense, it's just going to be different. AI improving and being incredibly rapid. Society will be coming along at a slower clip, but still very fast. Science will be getting automated. What it means to start something will be totally different. What it means to go look will be totally different. There's going to be a lot of change in the next couple of years. You are lucky to be a student because you can go try things quickly. And you're also lucky that this is doing the most interesting time to be starting off like adult life or a career. But I think a lot of the traditional advice.
So, speaking of execution, in your first ever blog post on blog.samaltman.com, you say that knowing is easy and it's the doing that's difficult. Is there a truth that you think you know now about the future where the missing piece is execution?
Well, I think that's just generally going to continue to be true. Knowing is easier and easier. Like we can get the help of these AI tools. Getting stuff done is easier too, but it's easier for everybody. And so you have to like compete with everybody else just to get stuff done in the world. It is for sure true that what one programmer can do now is like mind-blowing different than what do a year or 2 years ago, a year ago, let's say. It is also true that the people that I know that are using these tools the most effectively say it is never been harder to do their work. And I suspect this trend is going to keep going, but like, man, watching these people who are really good at using AI coding tools have like 12 agents running all the time, and just like these complicated custom systems, they're constantly evolving. Like the tools have gotten unbelievably good, and the ability to use them to be at the top of the game, I think, is there.
Do you think this will apply to all of us just coding?
I mean, look, eventually we'll just say like, hey, Mr. AI, please like make me start up and do everything. Do a great job, you know. But between them, I don't know.
These models are becoming more and more powerful, and we have people that are interested in creating the difference between the audience here. What should people be working on first? What do you think is the most important problem?
The degree to which it feels like everything is like for everything. I'm not like that interested. People are like, well, all SaaS like, you know, make a new startup to make SaaS company X better. Like, you know what, that would probably work. But I think that's a missing of what's possible now. The degree to which things are just completely fundamentally reimaginable, and the space feels super open on that. Like, you know, like just to pick a random example, social products have not changed that much in the last, and I'm not even counting like video scrolling apps, just like an actual connect to people and like look at information about them style apps have not changed that much. I think Moltbook points to the first interesting new thing where you can imagine a bunch of agents on behalf of their users, virtual space, talking to each other, like exchanging use information, completely changing what it means to interact with other people on the internet. Like, that was just not possible at all until very recently, and now it feels like the space of social for the first time is totally go to do something. You know, a lot of people are like building AI into productivity software, and you know, like I don't really need something build apps. Like sometimes did it write a sentence for me. I mean, that's like fine, but probably the whole thing of what it means to write a document is going to completely change, and there's a whole new kind of thing to imagine there. And this will apply not just traditional software startups, but most companies in the world. Pretty soon, you know, we're going to that far better. I love times like this. They're rare. When the iPhone launched was one of them. I don't think we've really had one since. And the fact that this time not only can you use the technology to do these things that you could never do before, but the fact that you can use technology to like make a product so quickly and with so few people, I think it's going to mean a lot more startups getting super successful really fast. And a lot of startups that have like one person or 6 people or something like that get as impactful and as much revenue as, you know, a medium-sized company.
Do you think then that, given you're talking about like multiple these agents, that like once AGI happens, it will then surprise us and just all of a sudden like all of everything we done on these new companies and integrated into an agent thing, something like that, or like how will it be introduced?
So I think it was going to feel like in the next few years, let's say 2 years, is stuff's just going to happen faster. You know, startups are doing things faster, existing companies are going to bring their revenue faster. It will feel like we've broken the laws of traditional speed and product development and business growth rates and things like that. You know, companies are starting to hire AI co-workers and do amazing things with fewer people. I think we'll continue to see AI research go much faster. And we'll see scientific research happen much faster. But I don't think it'll feel like totally autonomous companies transacting with each other in environments where it works. Eventually that probably does happen. And And, you know, one of the sort of like central observations I've had in like that people are unbelievably adaptable. Society is unbelievably adaptable. So that sounds like a totally crazy destabilizing thing. And I bet it's not going to be as weird to live through as it sounds, or only for a day.
So I kind of wanted to go back to that thing that you mentioned about societal impact. I mean, how do you think this is going to impact like politics, like religion, like it's expanding more something like services? How society going to be impacted by this new deal?
One of the everyone got a definition for AGI, definition for super intelligence. You know, I kind of think like the most important definition for something about the ability to improve it. One of the ones I like as a sort of example or a way to think about this is if we had an AI system that could do a better job at making decisions than anyone could possibly have, be say president of the United States, would we, and like confidently, much better, would we politically force to perform that? Very, very good. You know, most people, I think today at least would say that they don't. Maybe as things a little more, they do. Or, you know, like an AI CEO, would you rather have? I think it'd be awesome for OpenAI, an AI CEO, but I think a lot of people would be like, that's a little scary. If, though, AI is better at doing some of these things, I think there will be like many things that people are better at than AI long term, or at least people really care about other people doing. But I have no illusions that AI will not be a better CEO than OpenAI than me at some reasonably soon time. If that's true, and if some companies or countries don't do that, and others do, and AI is much better, like that will have a real impact in economic competitiveness, things like that. And so I think one of the things that will happen about how this is going to impact us, systemically, politically, is the AI is just much better. I think people will feel increasingly like we either do worse or we put the AI in more and more important positions. I think people will, like, you know, you think of like an AI CEO, people will always be an important person. That's probably a great idea. But I kind of think that people may not quite, I certainly cannot really wrestle with like, is there a way that this doesn't happen and what all of the political, economic, societal impacts are? I still believe that although it sounds like a completely crazy thing to say, we're very adaptable, we really care about other people, you know, maybe there's like a AI CEO that you just care about like the company's spokesperson speaking to you in these like 8-second video clips or whatever. I think I'm not a jobs doomer at all. I mean, a lot of the current jobs are going to go away or be heavily changed, but human desire for be useful to each other, to compete with each other, to like create differential status, to do something fulfilling, to express creativity, that is not going to go anywhere. And maybe the jobs of 100 years from now will not be like the jobs of today. Nor do many of the jobs of today look much like the jobs of 3 years ago. But I'm confident we'll have stuff to do. I'm confident we'll really care about other people and less about the machines. And then beyond that, yeah, I think we're just like, AI is going to get ever more confident and we're going to want to use it. Thanks.
So we're going to go into a quick Q&A segment now with questions from the audience.
I would love like hard.
We have a Slack channel, fan-only Q&A.
Involvement Q&A, guys. I want to have 3 questions each one.
So we're gonna start off by reading some of the questions that were already submitted since we posted yesterday. We encourage you guys to submit more questions, and if you really like to some questions, we want you to just reply with them for the emoji so that we can see it and we can ask it.
Get started. You're thinking about like OpenAI potentially having an AI CEO. So if you have a question that's kind of related about like say OpenAI is like end up being a company that can do anything because it's sealed in AI. How do you compete with AI then in the future?
When we started looking, it was like, you can't do this, you can't do it, it's impossible. And there will someday be much bigger and more successful companies than OpenAI. They will not do exactly what OpenAI does. You may still users, you may just make a thing, you may like this, may not get it on. Very likely be exactly what it does. Google screwed up, didn't react enough to our approach early enough. They're doing it very nice stuff now that had been there after to get off the ground. And they had very small people, big companies, big problems. Someone in this room, I hope, will do the same thing all the time. We sell intelligence for what I think is a very low price. You have probably the biggest option space in any startup, startups at any kind of industry. If you try to make like an exact copy of ChatGPT or Codex or frontier models in API, probably not gonna work. There's so much other stuff to do. And the best thing of all is to figure out, we were talking about this earlier, like things that are just going to totally change now. Take your pick. We're not going to be able to go do all those things. And neither is any other company that is not the same. That's the sort of like freedom to be a little bit weird and decisive and put together and rebels. Just to do that. It always seems really scary. I remember many like very nice books. You can't stop it. It's just maybe it's fine. But just like go at it.
Okay, well, I can ask the next question. This might be a burning question that we see. All right, news reports say OpenAI is running cash very fast. You can face completely Russian region. How do you handle this? And is the situation really as serious as you think it to be?
We are running cash very fast. It is not a serious situation. Like if we can spend this year to make $3 billion next year, there's a lot of capital in the world that wants to do that. So we will raise a lot of money, equity and debt, we'll spend a lot of money, we'll make a lot of money. It's weird, the economy hasn't seen something quite like this before, but given what we see about revenue growth and model growth, and how much that's future revenue growth, we're like, super confident in where things are going to go.
So we've got another question here. It's, Sam, are you really happy?
I am actually one of the happiest people I know. We used to be a very anxious person. I think people say to me all the time, it's like, you have a miserable job. You have all the stress of all the people coming after you. You have like crazy bad shit, you should get something to a day. Like, how do you not have to break? And my answer to that is like, I just figured out what it was going to take for me. Like in my 20s, when I realized I was not really happy and certainly very calm, I figured out what it was going to take for me to get happy and calm. I think people find their own paths there, but meditation was a big part of it for me. And it's kind of like a one-time thing. And now, like, even when stuff is really hard, like really painful, I think I kind of learned in meditation that always stuck with me is that everybody thinks the opposite of a bad experience is a good experience. So if I'm having a bad experience, then I'm not happy because I wish I had a good experience. And the kind of like a big mental shift for me was to reframe it as the opposite of a bad experience is no experience. And someday that'll happen too, and you'll miss the bad experiences too. And like I have a lot of days where it's been stressful. So great.
Someone asked, what does a day in your life look like then?
Absolute chaos. I like wake up early, I work for a few hours, I can have control of my life till like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I can like get something done, I can try to drive whatever I want to get done. Then I play with my kid for an hour, then I go to the office, and then it's just like insane. Whatever is gonna happen happens like crazy. I don't think any company has been as fast moving, chaotic, and everybody's crosshairs as us. And so it's just, yeah, unpredictable chaos life.
We don't wake up at 4 a.m.
It did not use to wake up. This job is a pain in
Awesome.
So 2 more questions.
Okay. We are at time. I have another question for someone. What AI subfield today feels like OpenAI in 2016? A little undervalued and underestimated. Shoot at.
That's a great question. This is the kind of question that I would like spend a lot of time trying to think about. I'm not sure if you mean it as like a research thing or a company thing. I'll answer both. I'll do it because we're almost out of time. On the research perspective, I bet there is another new architecture to find that is going to be like as big of a game as transformers were over LSTMs. And I think finding out models that are smart enough to help do that kind of research. So I would go look for like where can I find a mega breakthrough, and I would use models to help me. On the product side, I guess we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I would just pick a big area and say what is possible now with AI that wasn't possible at all before. Like where can I totally reduce something and say AI is the absolute core to the interaction working. And look, I don't want to say this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity because I hope the world keeps getting dramatically better every few years, and that if we come back here, or actually soon we come back here and so students, AGI will look like just a warm up for whatever the next important thing was, and that'll keep going for the rest of history. But this is at least the best time ever so far. And what we can do now is so crazy exciting that I think you should probably try to figure out how to take advantage of this moment.
And one last question. A lot of labs like XAI and Google have their own data centers and even custom silicon for inference. Does OpenAI have any interest in developing hardware as well, or stick to external partners far right now?
We have a good custom silicon program. We're very excited about our inference chip, and clearly the world wants a lot of cheap tokens, and I think what we're working on there will be great. We have a very good partnership with NVIDIA, and all of our training on NVIDIA inference, but we are excited to be doing our chip system. Building data centers, I would love to not have to do that. If we have to at some point, we will. That's, like, you can't do everything well as a company, and that's like a big intensive thing to do. If we can just design a great rack if other people operate those and build the crazy buildings around them, that'd be awesome.
Everyone, let's give it up for Sam.
I respect.